people, how are you doing? I hope you're having a damn great day. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about Jurgen Klopp's phenomenal Champions League winning side. What was it, like 2018, 2019 season? Anyway, this team, these tactics are very different to how Liverpool play in today's game. Of course, there's no inverted fullbacks. It's just high octane, pressure, pace, aggression, rock and roll football. So, if you will, subscribe, like, share, and let's hop on straight into the goddamn video. So taking a look at the formation at hand, it is a 4-3-3 false 9 system. I've made no major changes to it. The only thing I can say that I have done is, and this is more or less to try and get them a bit more central at times, is I've moved the wingers ever so slightly inward. So it is 1 goalkeeper, 2 centre-backs, 2 full-backs, 1 DM, 2 central midfielders, 1 centre-forward, and then of course 2 wingers. Please forgive me, I am feeling slightly under the weather, so my voice is a bit yeah, anyways, let's move on. So taking a look at the tactics and the tactical vision that I think would best suit this side, shockingly, is Gegenpressing. Of course, like I said earlier, they are trying to implement that high octane, high energy, high pressure type situation, and I think Gegenpressing does a very efficient and effective job in replicating that. As for the defensive style, it is set to pressing after possession loss. Of course, when Liverpool turn the ball over, just in general, they tend to, be very aggressive in trying to implement that Gegenpressing system, where they'll obviously look to try and counter press and win that ball back nice and effectively, high up the field, and obviously look to try and turn it into a counter-attacking opportunity. Of course, the structure and the style of play, the team always try to keep their structure, making it very hard for the opposition to try and break down, and they would also try and shrink when out of possession of the ball, which is exactly why for the team width I've set it to 25. Obviously creating that nice compact back four, as well as having a very good solid workmanlike midfield, where the likes of Jordan Henderson, Wijnaldum, Fabinho did a lot of the heavy running, the heavy work in trying to either track down runners, pick up certain men in those wide areas, especially if the likes of Trent and Robertson tucked in very efficiently. So again, you are looking to try and create that very compact structure. As for the depth, it is set to a high line, set to 90, which can definitely help you in and out of possession. Of course, playing the offside trap, but at the same time, when in possession, allowing your fullbacks to be nice and high up the field, allowing them to be a bit more of an outlet ball, as well into those wider areas, obviously looking to try and supply crosses, cutbacks, and whatnot. But at the same time, you can be exposed. So if you are playing the likes of a PSG, Mbappe up front, or a Real Madrid with Vinny and Rodrigo, maybe hone it in a little bit, just tone it down just ever so slightly. But again, this was Jurgen Klopp's high octane team and structure and system. So you are trying to implement that very aggressive style of play, and more so a high line does a very, very good job with implementing that. As for the build-up play now, of course, the build-up play is set to fast build-up. Of course, this allows for or encourages the likes of Mohamed Salah, Mane, and even Roberto Firmino to obviously bomb forward, get nice and high up the field, be the outlet ball for a potential counter-attacking opportunity. But at the same time, what I've noticed with the build-up play being set to fast build-up, it encourages your fullbacks to bomb forward a lot more efficiently and get a bit more involved in the attacking outlet. So that's essentially why I've gone with fast build-up. As for the chance creation, I've set it to direct passing. Now this will also encourage your forwards to make those runs in behind, trying to penetrate the opposition's backline very efficiently and effectively, and allowing for them to have a bit more of a scoring opportunity more times than not. As for the team width, I've set it to 85. Now this will encourage the likes of your fullbacks to enter those wide areas of the field, be the wider playmakers in certain moments. I did mention this in last week's video, where I was speaking about the potential of Xabi Alonso joining Liverpool. Back in the day, but this is prime Jurgen Klopp. The fullbacks were very much the width holders in the side, so you want to try and vacate those wider areas with your wingers and allow the fullbacks to almost be secondary wingers / wide playmakers in certain moments. As for the players in the box, I've set it to 7. Now this will obviously allow for your front 3 to be able to break into that attacking area, as well as potentially every now and then one of your number 8s or maybe one of your wing backs / fullbacks breaking into the attacking third. As for the corners and the free kicks, as per always, I have set it to 4. So guys, taking a look at the play instructions, and obviously starting off at the back with Alisson, instructions that have become very much the base norm for him, but he is set to be a sweeper keeper. Of course, that high line, it requires a very proactive goalkeeper, as well as saving on crosses. Of course, I always think that this gets the best out of your goalkeepers, especially when they are being very proactive and aggressive towards trying to claim those potential whipped in crosses and whatnot. And of course, Alisson, in my opinion, If you are new to the channel, you would now know. But in my opinion, he is the best goalkeeper in the world. So therefore, you'd want to try and give him the best possible chance of replicating that. And I think the likes of comfort crosses and be a sweeper keeper does that very effectively. As for your two centre backs, we've got the likes of Matip as well as Van Dijk. So for Matip, he set his base set of instructions, whereas the likes of Virgil, he set to conservative interceptions, more or less looking to try and, be that sweeper keeper of not sweeper keeper, sweeper type centre back of the two, looking to try and close down particular spaces and not lose the shape of the back line. So therefore, I've set him to conservative. Otherwise, he's got the base set of instructions for his, well, the rest of it. As for the likes of Robertson and Trent, of course, they've got the same set of instructions. Apart from Robertson's interceptions, I've set his to aggressive. You want him to more or less try and replicate his mentality in the game, and that's more or less how you can do it. As for the attacking runs, I've set it to join the attack as well as the overlapping run type, obviously creating a lot of that width down either flank. And then for the defensive positioning, I've told both my fullbacks to stick to position. This will obviously allow them to hone in a bit more, tuck in ever so slightly when you are, out of possession of the ball, and that allows for your two number 8s to potentially, drop a bit deeper and slot into those wing back type areas. As you'll see here for the likes of Trent, he's got the same set of instructions as well, apart from the interceptions being set to normal. Now moving on to the midfield, of course, I personally think that this was the engine room that drove this team to success. It was the foundations of what Klopp built a successful team on. It was what allowed the likes of Trent Alexander-Arnold, the likes of Robertson to bomb on forward, be a very good offensive outlet, because you had the likes of Henderson and Wijnaldum as well as Fabinho covering those defensive positions when they were out of position essentially. So for the base of the midfield, of course, to start off with the Fabinho type role, his defensive behavior that I think should be set to is a balanced approach. Now, you can't go with man marking, but again, I think more of a keep your shape, keep your structure, make sure you're very hard to break down when in and out of possession of the ball. I think that more or less suits what Fabinho was all about. As for the attacking supports, now, if you were allowed to drop your DM between the two centre-backs like you were able to do, like literally in the last game, I would more or less go with those instructions. But because you can't, this is more or less the closest thing that you can do, and therefore the DM for this Liverpool side should be instructed to stay back while attacking. As for the interceptions, now you'll see for the whole midfield, I've gone with aggressive interceptions, and you'll also see the likes of Jones, Endo, and Szoboszlai have the double high work rate. So that's more or less to try and replicate that engine room type vibe, and also to try and aggressively implement that Gegenpressing type counter press. That you obviously are trying to win the ball back very aggressively, very quickly, and more so when the ball does enter the central areas of the field, you need to make sure that your midfield is working very hard to try and win the ball back very effectively. As for the positioning freedom on the offensive side of things, for the DM, I've told him to stick to his position again. With this role, you didn't need Fabinho doing too much drifting out wide or, supplying potential deep lying opportunities for others. You just needed him to stay central. When applied with a press, he would be able to beat it and then pass the ball on. So you don't need too much from him in that aspect. As for the defensive positioning, I've told him to cover the center. You don't need him slotting in as a right back or a left back or whatever. You just need him to stay central, make it very hard for the opposition to try and beat him. And if they do, you've got the likes of Matip or Van Dijk or Gomez that are just in behind him to try and support him. But at the same time, your two number 8s will be a very effective, or do a very effective job in slotting into either the left or the right back role. So they are very much going to have a slightly similar but slightly differing role. So we'll start off with the Wijnaldum role. So he has got the balanced approach, right, for the attacking support, allowing him to be a bit more of a box-to-box player, allowing him to drop a bit deeper, help support the builder play in certain moments, or potentially, work very hard on the defensive side of things, or potentially allowing him to get forward and link up very effectively with the likes of Bobby Firmino, Salah, and of course Mane. As for the support on crosses, I've told him to stay on the edge of the box. So yes, you can break into the box, and more so the Liverpool midfield didn't really, get into that attacking area. But if they did have the ball at their feet and they were allowed the license to get forward and drive with it, they'd obviously look to try and break into that attacking third. As for the interceptions, just like what I said with Endo/Fabinho, you want it to be aggressive. You want to try and, replicate that workman-like midfield. As for the defensive positioning, cover the wings. So if the likes of Robertson hasn't come back in time, or the opposition winger has beaten him, and Robertson's not going to recover that, you would expect the likes of a Wijnaldum or a Henderson to try and fit in and cover that particular runner or man. As for the positioning freedom, just like with the likes of Fabinho as well, structurally sound, making it very hard to try and play through that central area of the pitch. So on the offensive side of things, you don't really want the likes of Wijnaldum drifting out wide, drifting into that wider space, occupying it where the likes of Robertson or Mane might be. You want him to stay central, be very integral in rotating the possession and the ball, trying to work it into the best opportune areas for the Liverpool attack. Onto the likes of Henderson now. He is told to stay back while attacking. Now, this is more or less to try and cover for the likes of Trent, who very much was, especially like in his earlier days, this is more or less why he was also exposed last season. But in his earlier days, the likes of Henderson would do a lot of the hard, heavy lifting in the defensive areas of the field, making sure that he was covering for the marauding attacking fullback. So therefore, I've told him to stay back while attacking. As for the support on crosses, I've told him to stay on the edge of the box, just like with Wijnaldum. So if he does have the ball on the edge of the area, you can then look to try and drive into that attacking area, but more so looking to try and, stay on the edge of the area, rotate possession, and find the best opportune offensive outlets. As for the interceptions, I've set it to aggressive, and then finally cover the wing and then stick to position. Now onto the likes of Roberto Firmino. So for his role, I've told him to stay central and of course be a false nine. This will obviously allow him to drop off the opposition's backline, draw players out of position, open up a lot of space for the likes of Mane and Salah, as well as allow him to get onto the ball a bit more, be a bit more effective with his ability to break down and unlock the opposition's backlines. As for the interceptions, obviously looking to try and implement that very aggressive nature and that counter-pressing system. I've set it to aggressive, making sure he is closing down to specific angles and passing lanes and making sure he is being a very good nuisance for the opposition's back line. As for the defensive support, now this is obviously to have him start off slightly deeper, at a deeper rate, link up a bit more with the midfield, but I've told him to come back on defense, looking to try and help support the defensive side of things. Onto the likes of Salah and Mane. They have got the same roles going forward, same set of instructions, no real changes to them. They were the superstars, they were the outlets, they were the goal-scoring machines. They simply were. I mean, there was that one season, I can't remember which season it was, it may have been this season, where they both scored like 23 goals for the Golden Boot, which is absolutely incredible. I think that may have been the season after this, when they won the Premier League. But, nonetheless, they more or less had the same setup and system. Anyway, so for Salah and Mane, they're told to stay forward, being the outlet ball for the potential counter-attacking opportunities. As for the chance creation, I've told them to cut inside. Obviously, this allows them to drift into that striker-type role, being inside forwards opposed to natural wingers. And then also, you want to try and use their pace and the space in behind, obviously allowing them to penetrate the opposition's backline as many times and as much as they want, potentially to try and, exploit them and score those goals, which they did more so. And then finally, the interceptions are set to aggressive, with the support on crosses being told to get into the box. Obviously latching onto those cutback opportunities as well as the crosses. As you'll see for the likes of Jota/Mane, stay forward, cut inside, get in behind, aggressive, and of course, get into the box. So there you have it, people. That is how I would replicate the Jurgen Klopp 2018-2019 Champions League winning side. If you have enjoyed this video, as always, please don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe. And out of 10, I would give this a 9. In terms of the EAFC aspect and looking at it from that angle, I think it's a very, very, very good, effective system. It can probably drive your opponents insane at times because the sheer pace and outlet that this team had was absolutely insane. So, obviously using the likes of Jota and Salah in this system works very well, very efficiently. And I don't think you can go wrong with it. So, a solid 9 out of 10. And guys, if you don't mind, hit that like button and I will see you tomorrow.